Right, so while prices for the GTX 480 are going absolutely crazy, I noticed CEX had another one in stock for just £18. So of course, £18, 5-year warranty, I'm not exactly going to say no. We do need to open it up and double check that it all works, so I've thought of a little bit of a fun challenge for just after we've opened this up. I'm sort of hoping, in a weird way, that this is actually just an original GTX 480, because the only one I've got on hand that works now is a top-of-the-line Gigabyte one. And what kind of version is it? It is... I think my last one I actually had of these was a Gainwood, but it looks like it's in alright condition, and it still has the Do Not Remove sticker on it, so this is about as original as it gets for a GTX 480, an original reference model that's never been taken apart. So this thing probably runs at about 200 degrees, so let's plug it in and find out if it's actually managed to survive the journey here. I can't believe this has been untampered with since the launch of the GTX 480. My plan is to SLI two of them. As of the moment, my cable's not arrived, so we have another challenge in mind to make sure this one works. Nope, we have a signal. That is a working GTX 480, but the challenge for today's video is last time we looked at the GTX 480, it couldn't run GTA 5 Enhanced Edition. But I've got better at running GTA 5 Enhanced Edition on hardware that shouldn't run, and I think these old Fermi cards might actually be able to manage GTA 5 Enhanced Edition because they do have DirectX 12 support. So what better way to find out if this card is stable than to see if it'll run? I'm quite hopeful this will work, so we want to use the 400 series. Well, let's wait for those to download and find out if they work. But it does also beg the question, who bought a GTX 480 and managed to use one for so long that they never had to change the thermal paste? I mean, it could be new old stock, I doubt it is, but it's in rather immaculate condition, considering. So just to get this part out of the way, yes, this GTX 480 from CEX seems to work absolutely fine. There's no issues with thermals. In fact, it's probably one of the best looked after GTX 480s I've ever come across because it genuinely looks almost brand new. Whoever owned this card, maybe it was just sat around in a box, or maybe they just decided they weren't going to use it. But either way, it is working absolutely fine. I was expecting to have to change the thermal paste, but it seems okay. I mean, yes, it's a GTX 480, it's always going to be a little bit hot and a little bit loud. But at the end of the day, it seems to work absolutely fine, and it runs the latest drivers with no problems. Which is perfect, because we need the latest drivers. See, GTA 5 Enhanced Edition doesn't use DirectX 11, it uses DirectX 12, which Fermi cards like this one here do actually support on a basic level. The only thing is, though, it's not exactly the most comprehensive level of support. It's something that was added as a little bit of a extra as these cards went into end of life and stopped receiving driver updates, so hopefully that will be enough to at least launch the game. Which brings us to the main issue I thought we'd be facing. See, last time we tested the GTX 480, we gave it a good thorough going through and made sure to test plenty of games. But there was something I glossed over after seeing it wouldn't launch, which was GTA 5 Enhanced Edition. And the error we saw last time was telling us that we don't have the right level of DirectX 12. Which makes sense, but since that video, I've actually been testing GTA 5 Enhanced on a lot of cards that received that error. And the answer is very simple. You simply throw the DirectX 12 DLL files into the game's directory, and it's worked for me for virtually all other cards. So any AMD GCN card that threw up that error, any older Nvdia card that's newer than this to be fair, would also be solved by throwing in those DLL files. So it was interesting to see that that was something I thought would be our main problem. And we did actually launch the game, that error didn't show up, we just had one telling us our drivers were slightly too old, and all seemed fine. It was that easy, right? But no, unfortunately we now had a worse crash. See, the game would start loading and would then just close, but there was no indication of what was causing the crash. I mean, yes, we know it's probably something to do with the game knowing it's attempting to launch on a GTX 480, and even if we go into the INI file, we can confirm it knows it's launching on drivers that are far too old, and it even recognises the fact it is launching on a GTX 480. So what I did next was I tried to configure the game down to its lowest settings, because that's worked for me a few times before on cards where it wouldn't launch. You just bring up a low setting
settings config, bring up your actual game configuration, and try and tweak things down. And we were still making no progress or headway. Until I tried something a little bit new. I thought maybe if we tweak around with the driver version the game thinks it's running on and change the required version to that version we're claiming to have, maybe that'll actually get things to go somewhere? And it did work a little bit because we now had a window open. It didn't do anything, but the game was now actually trying to do something. But the thing is, a window that opens and then crashes isn't exactly much more progress than where we were before. And it's not like there's any information online about this, because thankfully, no one out there is actively trying to play GTA 5 Enhanced Edition on a GTX 480, because why would you? The normal version of GTA runs absolutely fine, and to be fair, if you are still using a 15-year-old flagship, well, there's plenty of other cards out there that will probably be a much better bet and really aren't going to cost you anything at all these days. But I did find a forum thread discussing similar issues and they were blaming random things like MSI Afterburner. But then someone brought up something at the bottom of the thread, saying that by changing around their sound settings, they actually managed to get the game to launch. And it didn't do much for us, because I grabbed the set of earphones, disabled all other sound devices so the sound wasn't coming out of the graphics card, and we nearly made it in-game this time. It still crashed, but we were actually getting the start of a load bar, the Steam pop-up in the bottom right, and the little bit in our top right telling us that our friends list was active. It still crashed, but it did give me a bit of an idea, because it doesn't seem to be the graphics side that's having problems, there's something else going wrong. And this was the big idea I had next. See, how can we actually change what audio drivers this system is using? Because it's not going to want to install any newer Nvdia version knowing there's a GTX 480 in the system because they top out here. Well, I had the idea, what if we add in a second graphics card? It doesn't have to do any rendering, it just has to be able to recognize newer Nvidia drivers, not display drivers, but audio drivers. So I added an Nvdia Geforce GT1010, which was running just beneath the GTX 480, which in turn allowed us to install updated HD audio drivers, which seemed to be the main cause of all of our problems. And it seems to be that in recent times, Nvidia drivers have actually broken how the game launches on most cards. So this could actually be a fix for more people than just myself, so maybe this is of some use to people that are actually trying to play this game properly on, say, an RTX card. But if we disable the GT1010 and make it so the GTX 480 can just do the rendering, and finally, we managed to get in-game. It wasn't perfect, so I decided, you know what, it's a Friday night, I have just spent hours trying to get to this point of having GTA 5 Enhanced Edition launch, it wouldn't go in-game, but we could at least get to the start screen. So all we had left to do was a bit more tweaking on the INI file to try and maybe bring down the VRAM requirements, and hopefully it should work. After returning to things on Monday morning, I decided to go through and tweak the config down to its very lowest settings just to see if maybe we could get in game. And this was with the GT1010 completely disabled and the GTX 480 handling all the rendering. So the only thing the GT1010 was there for was to be a sound card. I mean, all it's trying to do is send a signal over HDMI, which we're not even letting it do. We've got a set of earphones plugged in. But this strange combination was the first time we managed to actually get things in-game. It still had problems, but it seemed like what had happened was the game starts to load, it tries to give you the error message saying it's going to crash, and then, well, you can see for yourself here. We're now a couple of days later, and we have actually got the game to launch. You can just about make out in the corner Grand Theft Auto 5 Enhanced Edition, and the game is running. It seems to have forgot that it was meant to crash. You can't touch this error, or it crashes. You can't open the menu, or it crashes. The GTX 480 is working overtime, but we have a proof of concept. It has launched GTA 5 Enhanced Edition. Now we just have to set up the capture card and try and capture some gameplay. So now we had things running. Admittedly, this is just how it looks, but it seems to be the reason it's launching is because that error message isn't clicked. As long as we don't click that error message, the game continues to run in the background. And admittedly, Shiner over in the Discord did come up with a solution that would let us get around this error message, and honestly, it's such a simple solution, it's brilliant. See, if we touch that error message, the game will just crash. But what if we open up OBS, capture the GTA 5 Enhanced Edition window, project that to the front of the screen in front of everything else, and then we've just got the gameplay being shown in front. I mean, it's a projection of the window behind, but it lets us get away without seeing that error message. The only thing is, we do now have two mouse cursors on screen, one that's being captured by the game and one that's being captured by OBS, but it meant that we now had the game not just running, but we could actually see what we were doing behind that error message. So now everything's working. Just how does this game work and run on a GTX 480? Right, so you join me here with GTA 5 Enhanced Edition now running on the GTX 480, and things are going quite badly. You can probably hear the card working overtime, and it is very, very hot, even getting it to this point. The game is near enough completely broken, but we do actually have things running, and they are running at what should be the lowest settings in 720p, and then projected onto an OBS window. It is very difficult to describe just how strange this experience is. But we do actually have GTA 5 running on the GTX 480. Now, I believe the main issue we've been having all of this time is that, well, what's the best way of trying to explain this? See, the DirectX 12 capabilities of the GTX 480 and the rest of the 400 and 500 series card are very impressive given the age of them. But the thing is, they don't quite have the support of the lowest end cards you should be running this game on, which is AMD's GCN. See, if you drop the DirectX 12 DLL files into, a card like that, the Radeon cards, it tends to work absolutely fine. The big issue we've got, though, is that it then decides that no, we don't have the DirectX 12 level capable of running this card. So through a combination of updating the drivers, and mostly the sound drivers as much as possible, with an add-in GT1010 that's sat down here doing nothing, it's not even got a display plugged into it, adding in some earphones up here for audio output, and then doing a weird array of bodges, we do have a proof of concept. Now, I've never seen GTA 5 look as close to Cyberpunk as possible. It's just crashed, hasn't it? Oh, no, we are back, we're back. Things are loading in, and performance is definitely struggling. As you can tell, this is not the way it's meant to be played at all. The original version of GTA 5 works absolutely fine on the GTX 480, but here that is not really an option. So, can you actually get away with playing this? I wouldn't know if I'd say this is playable. I mean, our frame rate is anywhere between 10 and 40 depending on where you are. We can't have any performance metrics or monitoring up, we can't open the Steam overlay, we can't add MSI Afterburner, and of course, because it's DirectX 12, we can't even add fraps. So we are just having to guess at what the frame rate is. There are some other issues with this, such as we can't open the start menu, that crashes the game. We can't get rid of the pop-up that says it has encountered a problem, or the game just crashes, because of course it has. And we can't fix whatever the lighting is doing here. I'm assuming this is an issue with the HBAO or the SDAO, or whichever the other version is. Either way, it doesn't matter what version of the lighting you choose to enable, it is completely broken. But the main thing is, we have now got proof. Can the GTX 480 play GTA 5 Enhanced Edition? Yes, it's just going to look... This is so bad. This is actually less playable than it was with 256 megabytes, but we have got some evidence. You can play GTA 5 Enhanced Edition, it's not going to be very enjoyable, and it's prone to crashing, but we've got proof, and that's all that matters. You can indeed play this game on the GTX 480.
it's still hanging in there. So I suppose we'll carry on from there.
Well, I'm not really sure what to say, other than this is probably one of the stupidest projects I've tried to pursue in recent times. I mean, don't remember, we all love the low VRAM challenges and getting games to run on cards they shouldn't. It's become a little bit of the staple of the channel this year, and I will be doing plenty more, don't worry about that. But the thing is, this really is pushing the limits of what Fermi cards should be running. I mean, it's very clear that Rockstar does not want you running this game on the GTX 480 or probably anything under the 600 series, because they don't have the real support for DirectX 12, and if you do get things running, well, clearly the engine is making some API calls that it can't understand and everything messes up. The thing is though, if you bodge it enough, it will run. I mean, I don't know why I figured out that adding the GT 1010 would be a good workaround to use it as a sound card, but this was just a ridiculous test for me to make sure this GTX 480 works, because I've got two now and I plan on SLIing them as soon as my cable arrives. But in the meantime, we have at least seen GTA 5's Enhanced Edition. Well, technically, this makes the minimum requirements a 15-year-old flagship. The thing is though, you have no reason to do this. GTA 5 in its normal form works perfectly fine with decent settings on the GTX 480, so just run the legacy version, don't bother doing this. But for those of you having problems launching the game, maybe look into the sound side of things first, because that is what was giving us the most issues here. So maybe, if that's what Nvidia is still struggling to fix, maybe it's your audio side you want to be looking at, not so much the video side. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed the nonsense that this video was. So thank you all very much for watching, and good night.